Now, if you search the problem of self-love, you will find things of this sort.
Simply about treating yourself like someone you care deeply about, someone you're rooting for. It's being your own biggest fan. It is knowing deeply and fully that you are deserving of love.
But that actually is wrong.
And so if you do, in the first place, feel selfish and come to the conclusion that you love yourself more than anybody else, the proper thing to do is to investigate your self-love, to find out why you love yourself and what you mean by yourself when you say you love yourself.
If you ask someone that sincerely hates himself, like yours truly, or perhaps yourself, you will know that you are not deserving any good. It doesn't matter if your mother, therapist, or only friend keep saying that you do, because you actually know better. You know what they don't know. You have seen the ugliness inside, what no one else can see, and you know for a fact that you are not worthy of love. It is true, and no one can prove that wrong. Okay, I feel like before we go deeper into this, there should be some form of trust between the two of us. As for there is no reason for you to trust a stranger's voice in your ears, knowing that in no possible way I can cause you any harm should be enough of a reason. Now, if you think you hate yourself, follow me. To start eliminating this illusion, I need you to write down with a pen and paper every reason why you hate yourself. This might take you some time if you do it sincerely, as you should. Know thyself. If I knew myself, I'd run away. Now, the word philosophy have a bad reputation. It frightens people. Philosophy seduces you to know yourself, and knowing yourself is not a very pleasant experience, while avoiding looking at the mirror is very comfortable, as you cannot hate what you do not know. But can you love what you don't know? Love is easier than hate, they say. I say they are the same, and that's the way the ego is born. An incomplete image about yourself, a fake one rather, an image from imagination. When we don't know, we tend to imagine, and imagination seldomly matches reality and often falls very far. Now, would you rather love a fake self or hate a real one? It is the old question of fake happiness or genuine depression. I personally choose the latter. So, let's say that loving the devil inside yourself is a daunting and impossible task. How could anyone love that thing? It's a monster after all. In a relationship with a woman I love, addressing me with hatred is always better than ignoring me. Being not worthy of love, that gives you the permission, let's say, to address that animal and demonic being with hatred, pity, and so on so. By seeing what you hate, you can now hear the silence between the notes. You can now see the beautiful and love-worthy side. I hope you can see where I'm going at. So, instead of love, whatever you might think that is, it is more about looking at yourself, at the you keep hiding from everybody else, and most importantly, from what you think you are. Also, it is not about hate. It is about giving your full self, as Krishnamurti says, undivided attention, with no past ideas, no future expectations. Just look at yourself, a childish look for the first time. Ignoring nothing when looking at yourself will give you the necessary balance you need to begin the spiritual journey of self-discovery. Now, there are two things I should mention before I keep going. First, the self, whichever you want, the one you hate or the one you present to the world, is influenced and shaped by outsiders. The other thing is that we as humans, we tend to have the idea that the devil is over there and the enemy is those others. And every group have made up an image where they cast all the filth on, whereas the only enemy that you must address and love is the one inside, and that I myself, says Jung, stand in need of the arms of my own kindness, and that I myself is the enemy who must be loved. And remember that this is a journey. It is like making love or cooking a meal. You absolutely cannot expect to get a perfect result the first time. It is going back and forth, experimenting and learning. After all, you have the rest of your life to get this one relationship right. You cannot expect getting true love from someone who does not love himself. It is in fact the first thing you should learn before having any kind of relationship outside yourself. You can't hate someone if you don't love yourself, because knowing oneself is the essence of any kind of life. In other words, defining the distance between you and the other, and for that to occur, you need to know where you stand, and you cannot do that if you keep ignoring yourself. I personally don't like when I hear fake gurus screaming about believing in oneself and other seemingly positive attitudes toward oneself, when in fact you cannot have any of that or any other type of true relation to yourself when you don't know yourself. Krishnamurti said it best when he said, "Belief has no place where truth is concerned. So whatever happens to you, whether you think is bad or good, it will end and you will be separated from. But the only thing that you will never be able to escape is yourself." People who preach self-love and self-acceptance, saying, "I love myself the way I am," it is so funny, as they don't even know themselves. Accepting an illusion does not make it a reality. My point from all of this is, it is better to hate yourself for the right reason than to say, "I love me," not knowing who you are. In the first case, there would be no difference between loving and hating yourself, and in the second, everything in your life will be fake. This goes along the line of the person who is nice because he does not have the power to hurt others. When you try to define something, especially something as complex as yourself or who you are, you will find out that it slips away like trying to catch water with your own hand. It is clearly and certainly there, but the definition you give to yourself is always your name or an idea about who you think you are or how you think other people see you, an image of some sort. Yourself, however, is a completely different thing. So how can you hate something you cannot even point at? Fundamentally, as a human, you exist as a multi-dimensional, complex being. So yourself and your feelings toward this self is never one-sided and simple, for there is no pure hate or one-dimensional self to deserve the pure imaginary feeling. The statement, "I hate myself," implies separating the hater from what is being hated. And this, if you don't understand it, gives you a sense of distortion and shakes your psychological stability, and from here begins the inner conflict. When you say, "I hate myself," the image of whatever you say you hate is incomplete. In other words, you don't hate your whole self or who you think you are. There is at least the part that hates. By definition, when you say, "I think," there is the you and the subject of thought as well in this case. There is the hater and the opposite side. So when you simply watch, you see that the hate is also an idea, and the subject deserving of this hate is an image of yourself and not really you, an image created by others. It strikes you sometimes in a moment of silence when you are alone that you don't know who you are. You look at a mirror, not recognizing what you see. If you discard the many illusions of everything you think you are and really look at your true self.
Because just exactly what the Westerner may need to do is to allow free rein to his wandering thoughts and his imagination and his fantasy, because it's only in this way that he can get in touch with his unconscious, and that his unconscious will not leave him in peace until he gets in touch with it.
Ignoring everything, the part that's following other people's values, the part that is living the dream you've never had, all the dissociated parts that are looking at each other in confusion, and you will find out that what you say you hate has nothing to do with you. I am the oppressor of the person I condemn, and so acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem. When you are born, you learn alongside language and manners and so from people around you as a child. You also learn feelings toward yourself. You learn your quote-unquote worth by imitating how people around you treat you. That is the vitality of receiving genuine and unconditional love in your first years in this experience we call life. The idea that whoever supposed to have given you love in your first years denied you that and gave you something else instead is so horrible. Most people rather ignore it and live a life of anxiety and self-despair.
I'm going to make the perhaps astonishing statement that the fundamental problem was not that you were sexually abused, was not that you were beaten, was not that you were abandoned, not that your parents couldn't love you the way you needed to be loved. It's that as a result of all that, you lost the connection to yourself. That's the trauma. So there's the external event, then the impact. And so that what are we looking for then is that reconnection with ourselves. The loss of connection itself is an adaptation. If it's so painful to be myself, I better disconnect. So then we become our personalities. At least we become who we think we are as a personality. So if you didn't get the attention that you needed as a child, just for yourself, then you might become consumed by attracting attention, then you'll be attractive all the time. And hence the $30 billion cosmetic surgery industry. Because we couldn't be ourselves. Because being ourselves would have meant too much pain, too much suffering, too much vulnerability. Vulnerability, the Latin word vulnerare, to wound. Our wound would be too raw. We cover up our vulnerability by these compensatory mechanisms, and we close our hearts. And when we close our hearts, we no longer know how to love ourselves or others. And we no longer have pleasure or joy. And then you have the statement by Meister Eckhart, who's the 13th century spiritual master, who says, a human being has so many skins inside, covering the depths of the heart. We know so many things, but we don't know ourselves. Again, that loss of self. Why? 30 or 40 skins or hides, as thick and as hard as an ox's or a bear's, cover the soul. And he says, go into your ground and learn to know yourself there. Well, why to develop these skins, these hides? These are the compensations. These are how we try and protect ourselves from that woundedness.
A life where hating yourself becomes self-evident rather than something needs to be looked at and questioned. Living life with the attitude of, if I can only be perfect, the one who should love me or should have will have no reason or ground to stand on. The simple way to solve the complex of self-hatred, whether it's rooted in the Oedipal mother, the tyrannical father, or anything else, is to build a strong enough ego that can face it. And this can happen only by integrating your dark side. You cannot have a front without a back, or light without dark. Now you can say, I hate myself, knowing interchangeably that one of the two ends is not yourself. Either the complex is telling you that you don't deserve love and hating you, or the real you is being shy and depressed, hating the image created to satisfy the complex or authority, where in fact life is just a dance, pushing and pulling, living in harmony and accepting by acknowledging with no loathing the evil and imperfection characterizes the one inside.
Le bonheur, après tout, est une activité originale aujourd'hui. La preuve est qu'on a tendance à se cacher pour l'exercer, à y voir une sorte de balai rose dont il faut s'excuser.